Welcome to Inside the Thunder. I'm KD Hudnall, and on this show, I go one-on-one with some of the most recognizable names in Marshall athletics history. Tonight's guest is one of the most decorated running backs of the Doc Holliday era, the 2019 Conference USA Most Valuable Player, a first-team All-Conference USA selection, Marshall's 2019 Team MVP and Offensive MVP. He finished his career 8th in Marshall history with 2,852 rushing yards, tied for 14th all-time with 24 rushing touchdowns, and 3rd all-time with, count them, 15 100-yard rushing games. His 220-yard performance against Florida Atlantic ranks 8th all-time on Marshall's single-game rushing list, and his 204-yard day at Virginia Tech ranks 13th. He's one of only a handful of Marshall running backs to ever have multiple 200-yard rushing games. From Columbus, Ohio, Brenden Knox. Brenden, man, I appreciate you for joining me to tell a few stories, help all of us relive some of those really good Marshall memories, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a lot of fun. First things first, though, before we start telling the good stuff, you got to catch everybody up, man. What's life like since you hung them up the last time for the Herd?
Finding something that I love just as much as ball. We connect a lot with the guys that we used to play with and just guys in our community that, have spent their lives just being the guy. But once it's all said and done, find themselves down certain paths that, they're just stuck with that, side of things. Me, I'm in med sales here in Pittsburgh. Love the idea of that and, changing people's lives for the better. And it allows me to kind of study and be the best version of myself every day with the scenarios that I'm in, just like football kind of did for me. So just being involved with something that I love equally as much as ball and just having a time with it, man.
I love that, man. I love that you found something you can dive into that I don't think you fully replace that part of you that was ball for so long, right? The love probably is still very strong, but it's great to find a pathway and something you enjoy post playing days. And so that makes me feel good right off the bat that it's a step forward, several steps forward. And yeah, we like to talk about it, man, but I'm excited for what's ahead, right? I feel that. I feel that a lot. Let's talk about how it all began for you, how Marshall happened. Take me all the way back. How did Marshall first get involved with you?
So I'll start this off first and foremost saying I'm extremely, extremely lucky, especially in the world of college athletics where, you don't retain the same position coach for your entire tenure. I'm extremely blessed and lucky to say by the name of a man named Pepe Pearson, my RB coach, found me when I was still trying to find that Division I scholarship offer in high school. Found me at the Ohio State camp. I'm balling. I'm just scratching and clawing just to kind of still make my name known. I'm a 2-star recruit at this point. He meets me at the Ohio State camp. I go there to get Ohio State's attention, but I left with the Marshall offer the same day by Pepe Pearson. The only one that kept his loyalty to me throughout my entire back end of my recruiting process. And that's how I found my way in Huntington, West Virginia. And from there on out, history was made from then on. But that's kind of how my roots began, is with that man specifically, having faith in me and seeing something great when I was still trying to fight and claw for, these bigger programs' attention.
Wow. So you get the offer the day of the camp. And were there other schools in the mix, or was it like, this is it, I'm good, I'm sold, I like what I'm seeing? Or was there a little bit of a competition between Marshall and some schools?
There were schools in the mix, but if I'm being honest, I was one of those guys that teetered with grades. And a lot of schools saying, hey, I'm not ready to pull the trigger because, I'm waiting for the grade situation to kind of just clear on the back end. As a senior in high school, Marshall said, hey, if this clears, you're going to be our guy. And they stuck with me through and through, put me in a couple classes in that kind of Prop 48 situation. And as soon as I got on campus, I'm learning a playbook, and I'm also taking summer courses to get eligible to even retain my scholarship.
Sure.
So that's sort of what that looked like, really. So that was the only real offer I'd had from the get go.
Wow. So this is a little bit of a thing, and I'm glad you didn't shy away from that, because there are youngsters that may happen upon this episode to know that it's like there's still a solution if you don't have everything ready to go. Like, I'm glad you didn't shy away from saying my grades weren't in order, man. I had to do some things and get it right, because you didn't just pack it in and go, well, this isn't going to happen for me. You found a way, and Marshall had a way to help you realize that dream. That's super cool, man. And there are several guys I've talked to that were in that same boat, and none of them have been shy about talking about that. I think that's awesome. uh, so you get on campus, and I'm assuming you take a visit at some point. You don't just go
Hmm.
sight unseen, right? So
Hmm.
when you first get to Huntington, to what stood out? Was it the coaches? Was it the players? The facilities, the place in general, just the overall feel? Like, what stuck with you the most?
It was different. It's a change of pace from Columbus for sure. One of the spots that they took me to was Fat Patty's, and some of the other kind of staples around the city. And it was just the fact that knowing that, hey, I have a chance to prove myself in a Division 1 level.
Sure.
So the town was what the town was. It's a little bit different, as I said, from Columbus, but all I was really enamored with is having that one person to say, hey, I believe in you enough to, pay your way through school as long as you give it your all in the field. So
Yeah.
that's really all I had in mind. If I was able to retain the scholarship, I'd give you all that I had. So that's really it.
And it didn't come easy, right? There was a lot of waiting involved. In 2018, you played in all 13 games, but you didn't get that first carry until the ninth game of the season. So most people remember the Conference USA MVP version of Brenden Knox, but what I think most forget is you didn't get that carry until the ninth game, and that's wild considering what it turned into. So I guess during that stretch, what's your mindset? Were you frustrated? Were you wondering when's this chance coming, or did you just know, like, when it comes, I'm ready?
Absolutely. And again, me having that relationship that I did with Pet Pearson, he was a guy that was always in my corner. But again, you're not just vying for him to believe in you, it's the rest of the staff also. And not to say that they didn't believe in me, but you spend the most time with your position coach. So
Mm-hmm.
you're having conversations with him you might not be having with the rest of the staff. And him just saying, there's guys ahead of you, which I understand. I was fourth or fifth on the depth chart. That's already an uphill battle. So all the reps that you're not getting, or reps that you either have to take that are mental, and find different ways to prove that, hey, you're a guy that's going to be able to carry the load. So that looked like you taking, extra reps in practice that, other guys didn't want to get, or whatever the case may have been. And as people kind of fall down due to injury, which you hate, my coach is always in my ear saying, when this time comes, you do not want to be one of those guys that are asking for that opportunity. And then when it falls into your lap, you give everyone in the room a reason to say this is why he didn't carry the ball. So that
Mm.
entire week, I prepped like it was a Super Bowl. At classes, at practice, and I'm stopping in my coach's office before and after practice just for extra coaching tips for that big game, because it was the blackout game, which is already big enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pooping bricks thinking, hey, man, all eyes are on me. I'm the guy for this week. And I'm really just trying to block out the noise. And so by the time I got into that game, I wanted to be the most fundamentally sound person there. And so if we did, lose, which God forbid, or, I didn't perform the best, as long as I hit every single one of my keys, that's a building block for the next week. And I was never prepared anything further than that. So I just used that last stretch of that four or so games that season just to show, hey, this is enough of a portfolio for myself to prove that, hey, I'm the guy for next year.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. It was like it came so late in the game, in the season, and then you stack numbers enough to where you're like, I'm your guy for 2019, and that's what I mean. Like, such a wild, like, ride. You burst on the scene for a lot of people late in the season, and then 2019, you're the guy. But we're not skipping past completely of 2018 yet, because we got a big 200-yard game we've got to talk about here. It's Virginia Tech, 27 carries, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then just a few weeks after that 75-week game, you guys are in Blacksburg, right? You bust out 204. That's not a normal freshman moment, dude. I think we can both agree that that's not a normal freshman moment. So, at what point did you realize in that game something's different? Like I'm zoned in, I'm locked in. Something is different today.
I think earlier on, us not getting the start that we wanted, and we have a philosophy in the running backs room. Anyone else can tell you, um, no matter what else goes on in the field, we're going to be the heartbeat of the offense. If all hell goes loose, we're going to be those ones that are carrying the team, whether that's in spirit or with numbers. So for me, just trying to get that one initial explosive play. And then once you get one, now you kind of turn into a shark. Now there's blood in the water. Now I want more. I want more and I want more. And then you see kind of what the game is progressing into. And it's still not happening how you want it to on the offensive side, but you're just trying to get that spark that, is going to, maybe allow for the receiver or the QB to get that energy to say, hey, now it's time for me to make a play. And you're trading off in that way. And then by the end of the game, I mean, you're just having this workhorse mentality. I'm going to carry
So
the rock. I'm going to carry this, offense, or I'm going to make something happen.
so when it's opening up like that, like as a runner, as a back, what are you seeing? Are does the game slow down? Are the holes bigger for you? Like what is it mentally that's adding up to the physicality of it in games like that where it's just something's going, it's different. 200 yards is a different performance. So when that happens, what are you seeing?
I think it's conversations on the sideline with, guys like Alex Millette, Walmer, various other offensive linemen that are letting you know what's happening up front. Because, I mean, they're the first line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not doing their thing, it makes it much harder for me to do my thing. So then letting you know, hey, I'm getting pushed here, or look for my backside. It just comes down to a boxing match, really. These punches are adding up, and a punch may look like I'm getting leverage on this side of the ball, or hey, maybe look, somewhere else. It comes down to conversations on that side because it is a team sport at the end of the day. Just them being in sync with you and you just making them look as good as they're possibly going to look.
Dude, I think that's something that gets lost on a lot of people is we think about communication on a football field as like as the play is getting ready to happen or as the like the pre-snap reads or we're not thinking about once the drive is over or something, then you guys are on the sidelines talking about what just happened and how we can use that to our advantage on the next drive. That is a cool wrinkle that a lot of fans, I would think, aren't taking into account. It's that real time feedback that you're then going to immediately put on the field and try to gain an edge. That's great insight, man. Uh, Now we can move forward just a little bit and we'll talk about 2019. It's a great season. I loved watching you run. I mean, always, but 2019 was so fun. Let's talk about what validated that year because this is a little bit of a repeat of the intro of the show, right? Conference USA MVP, first team all conference, herd team MVP, offensive MVP for the herd, 270 carries on the year, 1,387 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. You led Conference USA in carries, yards, and rushing yards per game. You ranked top 20 nationally in rushing yards and rushing yards per game. And we're a 12-time captain in 13 games. 2019 was the year you became that guy. At what point in the season did you realize this team is depending on me quite a bit?
Probably the off season. If I'm being honest with you, the off season. I mean, you have a lot of things developing. You're working a craft, but first and foremost, you're spending a lot of time with guys where no one else is on campus. So you're spending and getting closer to your teammates, which is always great. And the trust is really built there. And the summer workouts and the stuff you're even doing outside of football. That's what it's about. You get these guys advocating for you and really just believing in you. At the end of the day, you just want to be a guy that's going to not let any one of your brothers down. That's really what it all comes down to in my eyes. So I think that started really then in the off season. And then
Hmm.
whatever else in season was just built off of the trust and, everything else we had built prior to.
Again, we're getting like the process behind the process. Like we in the stands see what happened. We see the result of the work, the result of the bonding, the result of all those things. And it all boils down to all the preseason stuff, all the summertime stuff, the stuff that a lot of guys in the moment, like I've talked to so many of our alums or football alums, and they're like, the stuff that I hated the most is the stuff that I miss the most now, and it's the early morning lifts, it's the drills, it's the all this stuff that I hated is what I miss the most. Does that ring true for you as well?
Absolutely. I mean, our strength coach, Kobe could tell you, anyone on the team could tell you. We had a strength coach in Luke Day where he wanted it to be like war, in every single lift that we had. And, the stuff we were doing in those lifts, I mean, no one else, quite frankly, was doing. So, I mean, it's easy to say, hey, you remember when this or remember when that. And, you guys go down this rabbit hole and you have to look off in the distance and shake it off. Like, I can't go back to that place, mentally, but absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
many guys tell me like the games run together for me, and I can't remember this particular play or that particular play or this whatever, but those mat drills or those this or those, stadium stairs because I didn't do XYZ like I was supposed to, that sticks with me. So many guys like the locker room is what I think of. My teammates is like I guess it's when you're away from the stadium lights and you guys get to be just guys as a team without people around. It's mostly what everybody seems to gravitate back toward.
Hmm.
So let's talk about though being a workhorse back. I would classify you as a workhorse back, even though you split some carries with several great backs. You shared the backfield with several great guys. I would consider your effort in 19 a workhorse campaign. It's one of those that's like everybody knows you're getting the ball. Fans know it. Defenses know it. Hell, our own sideline knows it. So when you know that everybody knows this, what changes for you?
Again, fundamentals, having a coach that you do, and the relationship with the O line. That's when you guys really have to be more buckled down than anything. Just saying, hey, they know we're coming, we know we're going, and it comes down to the stuff that you're doing. When the lights aren't on, really, the
Mhm.
fundamentals, where things are going to open up, what people are seeing, and just being fantastic communicators. Really, it's football at the end of the day. So you have to just find leverages and ways to win. Is what it all came down to.
Man, I'm I, I'm gonna get a really good story out of you here. I hope because this is a moment that we're gonna talk about Florida Atlantic. And this is like I remember this game a lot. I've watched it several times because of how it started and went for most of that game, and then how it ended. It was a very fulfilling as a fan. I always love to beat those guys, number one, but the way that one went was just there's not too many better over the past decade for me, really. So we're going to talk about FAU, and I really want to. I hope I can get some behind the scenes stuff or in the mind kind of stuff here because this is great. 220 yards, first of all, eighth best game in Marshall history. The final drive for you includes a 30-yard run, a 15-yard penalty that had some of it called back. Then you go for 10, 4, 4, and 17 as we're sailing off into victory there with about 30 seconds to go in the game. Um, I've probably watched that touchdown 100 times because first of all, I love the game call. The announcer makes a great game call. And because the announcer's expecting you just to get us in field goal range, and then you just burst through and off to the races you go. So I love that run. But getting ready in preparation for this, I went back and I watched that whole final drive because I didn't want to boil it down to one play. That's unfair. And what stood out to me, it wasn't just the touchdown; it was the entire drive. Isaiah Green has to make some passes. He hits Corey Gamage on a third down, short of the sticks. He has to make a move to move the chains, extend the drive. Dev Miller gets you guys to midfield. Then you rip off the 30-yarder. Then it's a little extracurriculars after the play. you lose half of that yardage. And then immediately after that, you go 10, 4, 4, and 17. After I'm going to fast forward just a bit to the penalty. After the penalty, you rip off 30, and then you get the penalty, and you go, what do you say? What's your mindset at that point? Because it's got to feel pretty good, and then you're like, damn it, what
I'll
are
be
you what's
honest
going
with you.
on?
Katie, I'll be so honest with you. We've all you're in Florida now. We all know Florida. At this point, it's humid enough that we get IVs. Every single ounce of sweat is, everywhere. You're like a human slug. So the only thing in my head is if and when I do get this ball next, squeeze it like I'm trying to burst a grape. Because I'm just like, with all the things that are going on that you just named, the last thing I can do is fumble. So
Sure.
that's all that's in my mind. Focus on holding the rock and just waiting to see that light of day and hitting it as hard as I can.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, you're not processing. Like, I don't know how I would be in that situation, but I think that I would be the warrior that's like, damn, clock's ticking. We're outside of field goal range. We're down by XYZ. Like, what are we gonna do here? Calm down, focus. We got to. That's me, though. That's me. I'm not in those situations. But are you just worried about holding on to the football? You're not thinking about down and distance and field position and timeouts and none of that.
I mean, you see it, it's in front of you, but if you let, the game get bigger than the moment, or, just bigger than what your nerves can allow, that's when you start messing up. So if you
Yeah,
simplify everything, I mean, you kind of take out a lot of those extra factors that can come into place. So yeah, we know everything that's going on, but again, my coach, if you simplify things as easy as possible, I mean, it really just comes down to executing, really. Let them call the plays. Last time I checked, I don't call plays. I just run them. So you're basically a general. I mean,
sure.
a soldier at that point. So,
So
you're just following orders.
so what was the did the huddle still feel like calm and focused, or was there urgency? Because dude, it's like a minute and a half, and I
There
know
was
you
urgency.
want to make it happen, right? But the clock is ticking.
Isaiah did a great job of making sure everyone was calmed down, locked in, and lack of better words, let's calm this thing down a little bit, and let's go make it happen. In lack for better words.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good because as a fan, I want to feel like my guys are calm under pressure. I want to feel like they're not running around like with their hair on fire, like what the hell are we gonna do? And that was a tough one. I mean, dude, it was a tough game. It was a tough game, and like you said, humid, hot. It's miserable. You're tired. It's late in the fourth, and you're still down. So I'm glad you didn't get. It didn't feel like everybody was flustered, but I continually go back to the penalty because I was watching that daggone drive and I remembered the 30-yard, but I did not remember half of it getting called back. And I thought, what does that do to me if I'm a back? Does that make me go, God, dog it? Or does it make you more determined?
It makes you a little frustrated, to be honest. I mean, yeah, you feel like you took 2 steps back to take, you took 2 steps forward to take three back. But again, how are you going to respond? That's something they beat in our head from week to week. So, I mean, how are you going to respond? You can't
Yeah.
take it back now. They already gave you the penalty. So,
Yeah.
how are you going to recruit? How are you going to recruit sad yards? I mean, really,
Yeah.
you can't live in that funk forever.
I don't. This is the mind difference between a guy who's been there and done that and a guy who is projecting like, what would I do? Because I've never been in a moment like that, right? But let me take you a little further back when it's 3rd and 2, and you gotta they call a timeout when it's 3rd and 2, and what's the conversation in the huddle? You're like, all right, it's 3rd and 2, we're getting ready to do this.
I get grabbed by my shoulder pads and say, punch this thing in. See ball,
Yeah.
get ball at that point. Um, I have to throw this in because this is hilarious to me. The year prior in the Gasparilla Bowl, I met a man named Mike Allstott, who I was introduced to, and I didn't know.
Oh
You
wow.
know, shoot me, I didn't know. I learned what pad level does to another man by studying a guy like that. I was introduced to him by Pet Pearson at the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. keeping in mind what a guy like that would do with 2 yards left to go, all I thought about was low man wins. It's a muddy game. It's humid again. And I have to win. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I have to win.
I mean, I'm not going to hate on you for not knowing Mike Allstott. That was a generation ago. But youngins, those that are listening, youngsters, go search on YouTube Mike Allstott highlights. You'll understand what this conversation is all about right now. Probably the greatest fullback, maybe ever. Unbelievable guy. So that's a great conversation to have stick with you in the moment that happened nearly a year before. And you're thinking, low man wins. This is the time where this gets put into application right here. I love that. Grabbed me by the shoulder pad and said, run this thing in. You break the huddle on that touchdown run. What are you reading when you break the huddle? What's it look like to you?
I always prided myself in being a phenomenal inside zone runner. So that's what I kind of, cut my teeth on. I'm looking for, defensive line movement. I'm looking to set someone up and just hit it right at the right flow of things to be able to have a decent enough flow. I don't want to take on a D lineman head up, but if I get half a man, I love myself all day against, a scenario like that. And it happened just like that. We got great push from our offensive line. I think maybe there was an arm or something like that I had to break through. And, from there on, it's just me versus them. Um, I like me and my guys all day. So you win in a situation like that.
I don't know if that's the exact run that I was talking about with Will, but he had mentioned that one. It might have been that run. I don't know. He said, I remember on this play that I got he pancaked his defender. And he said, and I look over and, I got that viewpoint. Like he's on the ground, he's got that viewpoint. And he looks over and everyone else has also pancaked their guy. And I really hope it's this run. But he was like, what a vantage point to just see Knox running away and we're all on the ground, where nobody's upright. So I can tell that those guys wanted that bad. They wanted that drive bad. They wanted to create that hole. They wanted to give you a sliver of daylight to see what you could do with it.
The only thing more impressive than that run was the amount of time that it took for me to get myself up off the ground, which part of my body was yanked up by 300-pound men. And by the time they were on me like gnats in the swamp, but by the time I stood up, I had probably 3, 4, 5 guys around my neck, shaking me, celebrating with me. I mean, I think that's the only thing that's more impressive than the run itself was the response time from the rest of my team to get in the end zone. Really, that hypes me up to this day. I don't care about anything else.
See, that's why I will go back. I mean, you obviously can't see my toolbar here but it's queued up right now. I was watching this again in preparation, but I will go back and hear that play call. I love it. It gives, like, I'm that guy that gets the goosebumps watching the old plays. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Moss hurdle the guy at Army and, the 99 MAC championship. And this is one of those for me. That is a quintessential play that lives in my head. But you mentioned earlier, all you're thinking about or your first thought is, I've got to hold on to this football. Let's talk about this one. 571 career touches for the Herd, 1 fumble. 571 career touches, 1 fumble. That blows me away. I first saw that stat when you were coming out, and as one of the national publications might have been PFF, had tweeted that. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. So that's lived in the back of my brain for a number of years. 571 touches, 1 fumble. In your Marshall career, you fumbled 1 time, once. I mean, you're priding yourself on ball security. I'm sure you know that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when I say that blemish, makes me want to walk into a wall. I mean, like, It was an iffy one as well, but I mean, yeah, you don't love that on the record, but I think that just screams workhorse, which is something that I think, I confidently prided myself on through and through.
Dude. I mean, okay. I guess if it were me and I was like, I just had one, I'd want that one gone too. But there are so many people that would trade that stat line in their bio for that stat line in your bio. That's freaking amazing, man. Like every time you touch the football, your first responsibility is keep a hold of the football. And then whatever happens, happens. Right. Because I mean, it makes sense to me. It's because if you don't hold on to the football, whatever you just did doesn't matter. Right.
Absolutely.
All right. So was that so how did that become an I'm going to call it an obsession. If it's not an obsession, we'll use a different word. But how did ball security become an obsession of yours?
Getting on the field. My coach, forgive me if I keep, priding him on, whatever success I kind of had. But when I say it was kind of like whoever Mike Tyson's trainer was, cuts the motto, like that's the relationship I kind of look at it as. If I'm being honest, this guy was essentially like a second dad to me. I lived in his office. He was so hard on me. And when I was first, coming into the swing of things, he told me, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader and I'm going to be your biggest hater. And
Mm-hmm.
he meant that through and through. I didn't know what that meant. I said, what do you mean? And he just walked off, just on a cliffhanger. This guy told me there's no reason on me being on the field if I can't one block and two, hold on to the ball. You're a liability at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I never wanted to put the team in a bad spot because of, my faults. So if those are things that I can control, why not lock in on those? Why not, fine tune those tools? I mean, because people fumble, but, in your words, people fumble a lot less, especially when it's one. If I can be one of those guys, I put myself in a whole different category of things for sure. And that puts me in better odds of being on the field and put your team in better odds of winning games. And that's what it's all about.
Dude, I really love your analytical approach to these things. Most guys just say, hold on to the ball. It's what I want to do. But you built this daisy chain of things. If I hold on to the ball, then I get on the field. If I get on the field, then I can be impactful. If I can be impactful, then we can win games. I'm not sure a lot of guys build that same daisy chain. They just go, I want to get on the field. I'll just put me on the field. I love the analytical. that dude, that's right in my wheelhouse. I mean, I
Hmm.
love that one. I love that one. As a running back, what's the biggest compliment that your coach can give you?
Reliable. You're reliable. You're not someone that's, injured all the time. Yeah, we get hurt, especially when you're a physical back. I mean, ask any one of the teammates. You're taking off your shirt and you look like someone beat you with bars of soap. You're reliable and they can count on you. Meaning, hey,
Mm,
if it's a short down and distance, you're going to get that first down. You're going to get your team out of scenarios to where otherwise maybe that's not going to happen. So for me, I think reliability is the biggest attribute as a running back you can have. Speed, hands, whatever else. Those are all flashy, but I think just being reliable, and that's a very general term. Reliable just means you're not putting the team in any bad scenarios.
yeah, that's obviously what I would. Talent is one thing. If you don't have talent, you'll never make it to the level you make it to. But trust is something entirely different. When a guy
Hmm.
looks at you and says, I trust you to, move this offense, or I trust you to make this play or make this block, protect my quarterback, whatever the scenario is, I can't imagine there's much, if anything, that's more fulfilling as a player than when, your leader tells you, I trust you. I
What's the
trust you.
term? It's harder to build it, easier to break it.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes 100% sense to me.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a far more difficult to create than it is to destroy.
Hmm.
You can spend a lifetime building a legacy and destroy it in
Hmm.
seconds. Wow. Speaking of legacy, eighth all time rushing yards, tied for 14th all time rushing TDs, third all time 100-yard rushing games, multiple 200-yard rushing games. We're just talking about the resume here because A, it's impressive, and B, it gives some context. I know you know these things. Some of our fans probably know these things, but it builds context of exactly what you meant to the teams of your era, but in a larger view, to the continued ascent of Marshall football. That's the greater story. This is always about the ascent of Marshall football post 1970, right? When Marshall fans talk about running backs, there are some huge names. I've said this before. I would put our running back record book up against any other G5 school. And some people laugh at that because they don't know what we know. They don't know what I know. You talk about guys like Chris Parker, Doug Chapman, Ahmad Bradshaw, Devin Johnson, Rasheen Ali,
Mm-hmm.
and Brenden Knox fits right freaking in there, dude. I mean, you can't start naming great backs in herd history and not name Brenden Knox. Does that hit a little bit different now that you've been away from college for a few years and you can appreciate maybe what you have accomplished that you maybe didn't appreciate as much in real time?
Well, yeah, I can say so. I mean, you spend, X amount of years building your name into something. You're not fifth in the depth chart, and then become a starter just because it was something easy. And when you do your studying on these guys that you just mentioned, at the end of the day, you just want to be remembered, in the same light as them. Hey, I remembered you. There's tons of backs that come through over the years, but it's harder to edge your name and say this is a guy that for sure remember outside of
Mm.
just whatever cluster that came before. If you have a smaller group of men, it's like, hey, these guys especially did it. That's a window I want to be in for sure, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
20 years from now, when fans hear the name Brenden Knox, what do you hope they remember?
Old reliable. I love that term. I forgot where I heard that from. Old reliable.
Wow. Well, I mean, that definitely is part of it for me. I look at a guy and I see when I watch those highlights from years ago, I'll tell you what I see. I see a guy that ran hard. You didn't run angry, but you ran hard. Those legs were like pumping pistons. That's what I envision, like in an engine, just pumping pistons, and always seem to fall forward. Always seem to turn nothing into something. That's what sticks out to me, and the fact that you never lost the football don't freaking hurt either, man. There's some unique traits from some of our backs throughout history, the best ones, the top runners in that find themselves in the record book, and they all have unique things to their game. And your game for me was that, like, a hard runner, like not afraid to run through you, over you, or around you, but you didn't shy away from contact. You weren't running out of bounds. You would put that shoulder down and get that extra 2 or 3. And that goes a long way. I appreciate stuff like that, because um, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there's an appreciation I have for guys like you and guys that have strapped it up and played for the herd and allowed me to just enjoy that. But that's what I remember. 20 years from now, when I think of Brenden Knox, I'll think of those qualities. I'm going to hit you with some quick hitters if that's cool. Let's run through some Marshall memories real quick. You don't have to get too deep. We'll just see what pops up and bubbles up. Who's your favorite teammate of all time?
Oh man. You put me on the spot. You put me on the spot. My favorite teammate. Favorite teammate. Favorite teammate. Is this first thought or is this marinating?
I don't know, whatever comes to your mind. This is yours.
There's a couple. Oh
Spit
man,
them
there's a
out.
couple. It has to be my roommates. I mean, because Devin Miller, Stone, Don Murphy. There's a couple others. We just would come. It hits different when you guys come up together. I mean,
Yeah.
Murph and Stone being, walk-ons that earn scholarships. That's hard enough. Me and Devin Miller being roommates, and we're getting all the grunt work. And then now you guys, the guys. I mean, they're trauma bonding, really. So it's a cluster of guys, really.
How did the two most fundamentally sound players that I can recall end up being roommates? I mean, you and Dev Miller are like like the Tim Duncans of Marshall football, like
Oh man. I wish I remember. I think it just made sense in the moment. We were like, "Do you have a roommate? Do you have a roommate?" No, no. I guess we're roommates. Like
You
that
do
type of
now.
scenario. Yeah, you do now. Yeah.
Who's who was the funniest teammate you had?
Oh, we had probably a lot of the guys from Florida. Some of the guys from Georgia. We had some stand up comedians on the team. um. Oh man, funniest guy on the team. Xavier Gaines probably had to be in there. Just a funny guy, not particularly what you're saying, but just a funny guy.
Yeah.
Um, Isaiah Green, I'd put him up there for sure. Who else? There's a cluster of guys I know I'm not hitting, but I mean a couple of the D linemen as well. Oh man, I have to come back to that. I mean, we had a slew of stand-up comedians. You had a free ticket every day to a stand-up show. Every day.
See,
Every day.
this tells me that I'm gonna have to reach out to Xavier Gaines because you're the second dude that's told me that he was like every day. It was every
This
day.
unhinged, like more unhinged than anything. You know, like I think it makes it all the more funny when you just never know what someone's gonna say. You know, like that type of scenario. Just like, what? You know, we're all taking this nap on the floor during like camp. Like, how do you have the energy to be funny right now? Like, we're
Yeah.
all like, it's yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
unhinged is probably a really good word. That's a really
yeah.
good word. What's the favorite road trip of yours that you made?
New Mexico was pretty fun. Boise was the most unique just because of one the field, just being in that part of the country. I put Boise up there, and it felt like a mini bowl game because it's
Mm,
so far away. I believe we went down an extra day ahead just to kind of acclimate to that side of things. That felt like a mini bowl game. I'd probably say that. I'd, I'd,
mm.
I'd say Boise.
Yeah, that seemed to be a favorite, man. That seems to be a
Hmm.
favorite. I imagine that would be pretty cool. I would liken Boise. I've never been there, but I would liken them to a similar vibe as far as the fan base goes to what you get
Hmm.
in Huntington. You know, because
Hmm.
like Boise's the only game in town. You know, and they really
Hmm.
love the Broncos, just like we really love the Herd. What would you say is the toughest defense you have ever had to go up against?
Oh man. Oh man, Charlotte, I would put up there. Just rival for obvious reasons. Whenever you're playing a rival, you're gonna get their best. MTSU gave us some trouble. Playing at MTSU. I forgot what year that was. V Tech, just because of the beef. I mean, up front. I mean, you just talk about. I mean, from the front to the backers. I mean, true FBS. Size, talent. I'd put them in the mix as well. But those are three that pop off initially.
Wow, I'd say, well, that was still a while. Was that had to have been long enough ago that it was still a Bud Foster defense at Virginia Tech. So
Hmm.
anybody that's been around that era of football knows what a Bud Foster defense was. They were
Hmm.
freaking relentless and really good for a long time.
Hmm.
And so Charlotte would I don't I'm probably speculating here, but would that have been what was Brad Lambert the coach then before he came to be our
Was he
DC?
on our side? I'm struggling to remember that as well. He might have been on their side, but part of me says that he was with us.
Well, I guess
I'll
it would depend
default
on what
because I
year.
cannot remember. Yeah,
I
I
guess
cannot remember.
it would depend on what year. I think he came to the herd and I want to say it was 19,
Hmm.
maybe. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's so damn close together. It's hard to differentiate, you know. And I'm just pulling from sheer fog up here in this head. I'm pulling things out.
I'm in the same boat.
Okay,
I
well,
love
well, let,
Lambert.
well, yeah, and he's back, man. I love it. I
Hmm.
mean, I think
Yep.
there's a certain era of fan, the students that don't know, what he can turn a defense into, and I think
Oh
it's going
my
to be pretty
god.
freaking cool. You
Oh my
know,
god.
yeah, he had some. We had some really good defenses at that time. Let's whittle it all down to one. What's your favorite Marshall memory?
I would say, and I'm saying this begrudgingly because we didn't win it. but the conference championship, because that's what I think you do it all for.
Hmm.
And that season especially was unique for obvious reasons. One, COVID. Two, us being ranked, which had never happened. Where I'd been there previously. And, the last and third just being, yeah, making it to the conference championship. That's what all that stuff that we've mentioned and talked about the majority of this call is for. We
Hmm.
got there, didn't pull it through, but I'd say that game and that season.
Yeah, that was a wild season. 2020, weird. So I mean,
It does. It feels like a
obviously,
fever dream.
it's super weird, but of course, like you get this short notice game against App State that's ranked at home. You come and you get that win, and then you start ripping off. What did you guys start like? I don't remember 7, 8, 9-0 or something. Went all the way up to 15th.
Hmm.
Weird game, weird season, fun season, but weird.
Hmm.
And give me an underrated teammate.
Underrated in terms of talent, personality. What are we shooting at?
Man, it's kind of like however you define it. Again, these are yours.
Underrated. Let's go with Sheldon Evans.
Yeah, you shared a backfield with Sheldon.
Let's go with Sheldon Evans, especially if we're talking about heartbeats and bigger voices on the team. A lot of people find ways to relate to him, and he's someone that shares that same mindset that I kind of mentioned before in the running back room, to where hey, we are going to be great and holding people to a certain standard. So
Mhm.
I'd say Sheldon, in that regard, talented out the wazoo. But I would say for that side of things, for sure, that's what I remember most from show.
Mhm. So along that same thread, it might even be the same guy for you. Who deserves far more credit in martial lore?
Oh, these are good. These are good. These are good. Far more credit. I would lean towards our defense. Maybe a Darius Hodge, maybe a Devontae Beckett, but they had the accolades. I don't know if I can put it in the boat of far more credit because you had the credit. I would just put the defense as a whole. I'd put the
They were t-
defense as a whole.
they were tough, dude. I mean, I think they were a top 4 defense or something. Maybe I don't. Maybe it wasn't a top 4. Maybe I'm thinking of the offense. One of the super, but they were super stout.
We had several seasons they were just, dogs off a leash. I
Yes,
mean,
yes. That's. I think there's so many of us that are ready to see that again, like an angry,
yes.
just everywhere defense that
Hmm.
you can win games with 24. You don't need 34. When you've got
Hmm.
defenses like that, and we're really hoping Lambeau can. Man, they got some dudes. I'm telling
I
you, they
got
got some
faith.
dudes.
I got
They got
faith.
some
It'll,
dudes.
it'll happen. Yeah.
That cupboard is not bare. Let me tell you. So I mean,
Hmm.
we'll talk about that a little bit. Are you able to still follow the herd a little bit?
A little bit. There's a lot of changes with NIL. I would love to follow a lot more, but it gets complicated when you talk about all the moving pieces with, players and different things on that side. So I'm getting back into the swing of things, to say the least.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, of course, this is not a plug for us, but we make it easy. Like if you're driving around and all that stuff, you get us every week and we can catch you up on what's going on. But it is tougher now, and that's a part of the reason we do what we do with this position group breakdown series and everything is because there's so much movement. It's hard for your average fan to keep up with it. So we keep up with it, and we try to
It
get
is.
everybody with what's going on and what this room could look like versus that room and this, that, and the other. And I don't know what, but I've seen you back at games. I mean, I've seen you close, and what's it like coming back now and just being a fan, just getting to be a fan?
It's cool. It's nostalgic, really. First and foremost, it's nostalgic. And second off, especially when the love is still there, which it is, it just really feels good because it's an embrace like nowhere else. You being in a different state, I'm in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, you have connections, but it's not like where it all began at. And maybe that's cliche, but it's the truth. It warms something like an oven. It really does. When you go back and you see these faces and you remember these scenarios. I bumped into Brad Lambert last time. It's just like I remember things. It's really cool to say the least.
Yeah. Well, part of what I'm trying to do here is unlock some of those memories that maybe you just haven't thought about in a while, and it feels good to think about again. But it does feel good to get back to the Joan. I mean, I'm 1,000 miles away from the Joan. You know, I lived in West Virginia for 38 freaking years, and then we came to Florida, and I get to come back to a game maybe once a year. You know, I try to come back for spring game, and I
Mhm.
try to come back for the home opener. And every time I pull into Huntington and drive by Joan C. Edwards Stadium, it's just like I get this feeling of I go, I'm home. And you know what I mean? It's just home to me. I spent so many Saturdays up in those stands watching you guys and the guys before you and the guys after you just again build memories for me. It feels like home, and there's no substitution for that. Let's get deep for just a quick second. If you could sit down with your 18-year-old self and tell him about the process, about the things you know now, what advice would you give to 18-year-old Brenden?
Trust the process. Before then, I'd never left Ohio. I'd never been that far away from home. So I mean, you hear about people being homesick, and I'll be honest, it was a culture shock for me. Columbus is an enormous city. Huntington is the polar
Not.
opposite. It's the polar opposite.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
I got there, mentioning, before, you still trying to qualify for your scholarship. You still trying to. You're fifth on the depth chart. So nobody's thinking about you. All these different things on top of being miles away from home. You're living through FaceTime for birthdays, X, Y, and Z, all the stuff that you'd normally be able to just walk straight down to. You can't. I did not see the light at the end of the tunnel for a couple of months of my freshman year, especially with getting, redshirted with the high ankle sprain. That was tough for me. And I'm like, maybe this is, too much that maybe I'm not cut up for. I don't know. I
Mhm.
had, people like Pat Pearson just kind of put his arm around me. And again, this is where that dad figure comes in. You're the guy, I chose you for a reason. If you trusted me, I'm going to give you everything that I got. I just asked for the exact same. And, having, a fantastic family and my mother and my brothers. I mean, these guys were second to none. So having a culmination of all of that is what allowed me to stay grounded. And no one ever promised me anything, but they just said if you put one foot in front of the other, you're going to love what you see at the end of the tunnel. And so I stopped thinking about, 3 years down the road. I thought a month ahead, or I thought about the next day. Stuff that was a lot more smaller and smaller bits that I could actually take a chunk out of instead of thinking about what my junior season's going to look like. I put one foot in front of the other, and great things started to happen for me, especially when I put in a certain amount of work that was above average, but again, a certain amount of work. And I love the outcome that I got from it because all the fruits of my labor showed up, and I did nothing more than pat myself on the back and say, I'm proud that I stuck around.
Yeah. That's a dude. I'm loving this portion of this stuff. Like we could talk about plays and touchdowns and all that stuff, but this is the stuff that I really love. It's the man behind the face mask. You know, it's the heart underneath the chest that's wearing the shoulder pads. This is the gold for me. And I want to build off of that just for with one more question, and then we'll try to get we'll close this thing down a little bit. I want to build off of what you just said. Let's say you have an opportunity to talk to these young running backs that are walking into the shoey for the first time, or this is their first season. What advice do you give them? I think you're uniquely qualified, one of a few guys that is uniquely qualified with that story to give meaningful advice to these young backs.
I think this also translates now that I'm, X amount of years removed from the game. This goes for life as well. But this is something that I would tell a young back, especially if you're just not the guy, or maybe you are the guy. Find a way to stand out that's unique to you. Everybody at this level, and especially once you get to the league, are good players. What was told to me was, how are you going to carve out the piece that has your specific signature on it? What does that look like? And that's not nothing, KD or Brendan Knox can tell any one of you guys. That's something you have to find for yourself and make you look as unique as possible. because starting out, you're all good. But what unique signature are you going to place in yourself that's going to say, I like this guy over the next? And doubling down on that, I just say be the best person in this community. It is smaller, but what I've seen from firsthand experience, they do take care of their own. So you treat the community well, and they'll give that back to you tenfold.
See, I can't give advice, and you say you can't give the advice. That's the good stuff. You just gave it to him. You gave him the key to the kingdom right there without saying, "Hey, man, you got to protect that football. Hey, man, make sure you're getting your read." You gave that kid the key to the kingdom just now by telling them to find their niche, carve out their path. Man, there's nothing I can make that. I can't make that any better. That's perfect. This is what I was alluding to a little bit ago and talking about watching you guys play, and I always making a point to do this, and because it's very important to me. Um, I just want to say thanks, and I mean that. Thank you because of what you guys did, and you particularly playing the game. My son, who's now 23, but he was a kid when you were playing. We sat in the stands on Saturdays and watched 20 run all over people, and we watched 50 and 55 blocking and smashing face masks, and and all these things, all these moments, these little moments, and we would cheer together and get deflated together, and you guys gave that to me, and I can't be more thankful of that because we still talk about that stuff, my son and I, and he's now got his own little boy that hopefully he'll be able to do this stuff with, in good time. But you gave me memories, in a world that's very materialistic. You gave me memories with my son. That's priceless. And I am so thankful for that. This is why I go back. I think I've just unlocked why I do that. I go back and watch these plays over and over again. It's because they're shared memories with, my 10-year-old son at the time that I can't get back, and you guys did that for me. And I'm so thankful for that. And you did that for so many families and so many people. You gave them memories with their children or with their parents, their aging parents. You were getting prepped for a game and putting your helmet on and getting your eye black on and tying your shoes and getting yourself right. And you were going out there to win a football game, but what you were doing was helping us live some of the best moments with each other. It might sound a little corny, but it's absolutely sincere, man. There's nothing better than that. And Marshall football, Brenden Knox was a vehicle for that for me. I'm so thankful for that. So thank you so much.
That was dope, KD. Thanks. Yeah, that was dope.
Well, I mean, it's true. It's true. One thing that I always like to end these shows with is something that about is what the ThunderCast is and what we are. We are not media. We are Marshall fans with microphones, and we're all heard all the time, and we're proud of it, dude. We don't make no bones about it. But more than anything, we've tried to build a place where former players, coaches, admins, fans, everybody can come and stay connected. You've been around our tailgates before, and so you know how we try to do it. It's free for everybody. Everybody is welcome. It's just a place to come and chill and relax before a herd game day. And I thank you for stopping by several times. I hope I see you again. Just know that if you're ever in Huntington, you always have a place with us, always, and anybody you're with. Bring the family, grab some food, hang out, tell stories, or just enjoy being a fan for the day, man. This has been a really fun interview. Really fun.
Cool.
I don't even want to call it an interview. This has been a really fun, just like hang out. Like I feel like we've just been two dudes sitting at the bar over some beers telling stories. That's what it feels like. Thanks for saying yeah. Thanks for saying I'll be glad to do it.
Thanks for having me.
I am KD Hudnall. That is Brenden Knox. And this is Inside the Thunder. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.